Hello, everybody. Thank you for turning on the third episode of our Bosch Thermotechnology Expert Talks. Today, our topic will be heat pumps. My name is Thomas Pelliceus, and it is my pleasure to guide you through the event. Bosch Thermotechnology offers highly efficient technologies using renewable energies that make an important contribution to reaching the climate targets. The first heat pumps from Bosch came on the market already in 1974, which is quite a long history, and a lot has changed since then. Therefore, I'm very happy that four of my colleagues will elaborate on our heat pump business of today. Thomas Finke, Vice President for Residential Heat Pumps and also member of the European Heat Pump Association Board, will provide an overarching vision, mission, and strategy for heat pumps within Europe. Styrbjörn Drugge, Business Owner Residential Heating Electrification North Europe, will introduce Northern Europe's heat pump market, considering the performance of the heat pumps. Guenther Schlachter, responsible for Middle Europe, grants insight in the heat pump market in Middle Europe with a special focus on its systems. Marco Bastian, in charge of South Europe, will give you insights in the heat pump market of Southern Europe with special consideration of financial aspects. And finally, Thomas Finke will give an outlook. But let's have a start now. Tom, please go ahead.
Good. Thank you very much, Thomas, and very warm welcome from my side. I want to start with having a look to the market, and in this context, I can just very highly recommend to you the video released by Bosch and Sonia on the topic of renewable energy and energy efficiency. I think this underlines very concretely and very naturally our high motivation for this topic. It also builds a perfect bridge to the market which we are acting in. Global megatrends that influence us are connectivity, urbanization, demographics, and climate and energy. The last one, certainly with the highest impact on us and our business. A business which is rapidly growing and where we see the trend of climate and energy, not least by EU enforcing climate goals, is leading to a market growth which is rapidly accelerating. We want to achieve European climate goals 2030, and for this, we go to work every day. Having a look to the market of heat pumps today, we already saw a sustainable growth over the last year. The last decade has shown a really good decade for heat pumps. Nevertheless, on the right-hand side, you can see that still only 15% of share is by heat pumps made in the European heating market. So there's much more potential. This is also underlined by looking to the following three graphs, where we can see the share per country in terms of percentage. There we have countries, especially high up in the north of Europe, where we have a good share of heat pumps in the residential heating market. Some markets exceeding even 90%, like Sweden, which Styrbjörn will later elaborate upon. But then there are markets with only double-digit or even single-digit figures in the lower numbers down there, so giving a high potential for the heat pump market there to come for Europe to really make an effort in achieving EU climate goals by 2030. This is leading us to our vision. So which part does Bosch want to play in this more and more electrified market targeting to achieve climate goals? Our vision is to electrify European homes. Our vision is to build the energy transition to build a better life for us and the generations to come. Or as Greta Thunberg says, we only have one world. I'm lucky to have two daughters, but my motivation is that we are really giving to them a good and clean world. Therefore, we are enlarging our portfolio. We are investing hugely into our sales organization to partner the way to mass deployment of heat pumps in Europe, in which we are investing more than 100 million euros. Having said that, we are investing so much money into heat pumps. I also want to address a bit an organizational topic or a discussional topic which is ongoing at the moment in Europe. We see too many clashes of technologies, like is it now hybrid the best one, is hydrogen the best one, or heat pumps the best one? My simple answer is climate change is driven by multiple aspects. Therefore, we need multiple weapons against climate change. Hydrogen, heat pumps, and hybrids are all solutions which can help us to decelerate climate change and to build a better life for our kids and next generations to come. Our approach is that we have to address the markets according their needs, to give customers what they want. And therefore, we have dedicated our approach into the 3 regions of Europe, namely North, Middle, and Southern Europe. Whereas now Styrbjörn will give us an insight how our marathon has started towards reaching EU climate goals 2030 and what role Bosch is playing into that. Styrbjörn, please carry on.
Hello, everybody. Please confirm that you can hear me now. Am I on? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. So, Styrbjörn Droge, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm happy to see that so many joined this webinar. And it's also a delight to be able to show you the insights in the Nordic markets, what I usually refer to as being the most mature heat pump markets in the world. That I state because of the fact that the majority of the people are already using some kind of heating in their residential houses. One of the pioneering markets, or the pioneering markets, first one was Sweden, that kicked off in the mid-90s, and the other Nordic markets followed shortly after. You can even say that the oil is close to history in the total Nordics, due to the fact that in Sweden, for example, over 300,000 oil boilers were shifted very rapidly under a time period of some 10-15 years, starting mainly from the starting point in 95 and forward. So in Swedish case, this lands in a situation where above 60% of the residential houses is actually heated by heat pumps already. In terms of insights in the products, the types that we're using are not so odd, but it's very regional due to the climate itself. So in the northern parts of Nordics, the liquid water is totally dominating, whilst in the mid, of course, is a mix, and then in the southern regions, there is the air water that is dominated, and also quite, as of now, quite rapidly growing also. I will come to the details there. Other insights in terms of the products is that the ventilation heat pump, a quite niche market in the Swedish one, but still significant and in the aspect of electrification, has been used in the new build sector as the favorite choice since the 80s. Also, one of the transitions into electrifying was based on that the dry electric houses, which was quite substantially built during the 70s and 80s, were shifted and complemented with an AC unit that is representative for the Norway, Sweden, and Finland situation. So, next slide, please. This is zooming into the Swedish situation, basically residential focus, and here you see the same figure, 59% 2018, meaning that we are currently above 60% using any type of heat pump. Runner-ups to the heat pumps is the wood pellet, which consists from 20%, followed by district heating of about 15%. So existing houses dominated by heating by heat pumps. New build sector, 90% almost are using the heat pump as the heat source when you build a new house. This is a mix out of the utmost favorite, the ventilation heat pump or exhaust air heat pump, which we say internally, and followed then by liquid water to some share and a minor part air water. Runner-up also there, the district heating in the areas, in the urban areas, of course. So next slide, please. If you look now, zooming out again to the whole Nordics, you can see that the outlook for Nordics is slightly a growth above 3%. I would say that is with conservative eyes, with a clear upside based on that in Denmark, there are currently, as we speak, subsidy systems that has been launched, emphasizing the need for reaching the quite harsh Danish CO2 targets. Other upsides in the market is the commercial buildings. Here there is a quite considerably low penetration of heat pumps so far. So also there is an upside chance compared to the conservative outlook, which you see here above 3%. Also, for the record, I would say that the air water in size in relation to the liquid water will slightly outgrow and become the biggest segment of heat pump type. However, we don't see any radical shift that air water would considerably take over the market. But for the record, you see that the air water is also in 2027 predicted to be slightly larger than the liquid water sales. Next slide, please. So then you can, for yourself, imagine that the use case will also shift concerning that it's a market which is consolidating its to electrification. So as of now, own predictions in-house says that about every fourth heat pump that is sold in a use case where you shift an old heat pump to a new one. In 27, it will almost be the half of the sales that consists from this heat pump to heat pump sales. And that has impact on how you sell the product and what benefits the customer gets out of it. Also, one thing as a takeaway is that when you have such a high penetration of heat pumps and is in an electrifying market, also there will be a need of integration towards the electrical vehicles. For the last December month in Sweden, 40% of the new sold cars were actually EV cars. So 40% of the total sales was EV, some kind of EV car. So that is one takeaway when it comes to what it means to being in an electrified area like the Nordics are and will even more consist to be in 27. So next slide, please. Okay, for the use case in terms of new build and existing building, what are now the expectations of customers wanting to use the heat pump technology also in the future? Well, for the new build, it's about finding the way to integrate even more into a new built house, following the expectation of having a hassle-free operation, of making it easy to install towards the interfaces, using as little space as possible, because every square meter counts when it comes to a new built house. So new build sector will continue to drive a big share of the volume in the Nordics, emphasized by the development of the heat pumps, of course. Existing build, you just learned that the majority of the sales was actually heat pump to heat pump. This means that the customer took the big benefit in the first place. The most funny or the most delightful point is when you install the heat pump for the first time, because then you get the benefit out of the savings, yeah? And the second time, you have to work on other aspects. You can slightly improve and improve the savings, but the majority will be to overcome or to delight the customer even more by having a very silent heat pump that is delightful to use, that is easy to work with in relation to your other smart home devices. So that is examples of how a market in an electrified situation evolves in terms of expectations of what you want from a new heat pump being installed, whether you are in new build or existing build. So with those remarks and insights from the Swedish and Nordic markets, I would like to hand over and get more information and insights in the mid-European markets. So Guenther, fire away.
Thank you very much, Stefan. My pleasure to give you some insights on the European mid-market. You saw that the northern part had already a share of 60% of heat pumps in the building stock. That's quite different in the middle part. In Germany, as an example, we had last year the first 1 million heat pumps sold. That reflects like a share of 5% only, because we're having 20 million buildings in Germany. And what you saw in Tom Finke's figures was that in Germany, the share of heat pumps in the overall heating devices implemented is roughly 11%, whereas in Switzerland, it's quite high already with a share of 45%. Good news is that in Germany, the share of 15% has increased from 2018 to 2020 to 19% already. So there is a strong growth of heat pumps implemented in the building market, Germany, for example. In the new build, the share of heat pumps is already the strongest and is higher than the fossil. Essential is that we are offering whole system solutions for all use cases. What the use cases consist of, I will elaborate later. And one driver for strengthening the share of heat pumps are the subsidies in place, for example, in Germany, and strong regulations that are in place to protect our nature, like in the Netherlands, Switzerland, and Austria. Additional to the climate targets, what we want to follow as well with the heat pumps is have a silent installation, and there are very tough requirements in place. For example, is our target to have only 35 decibel in the distance of 3 meters to an air water heat pump. That is about the noise that you have with a refrigerator as well. So very silent. The product background is that for Europe Middle, the air water heat pumps show the strongest growth. They are mainly supplied by European manufacturers with the main focus on sound, system fit, and easy installation. The easy installation actually is crucial in order to transform the installers that are installing today fossil solutions into electrified solutions. And we want to make this as easy as possible in order to strengthen the heat pump share. Looking at our electrified house, you see that this consists of a photovoltaic. So you are producing your own electricity and you're distributing the electricity ideally with the Bosch Energy Manager into electrical vehicle, into your heating system, and into your home appliances like dishwashers and washing machines, etc. The Energy Manager does always give you the advantage of full transparency of your energy flows, and in addition, it optimizes your own energy consumption, so you're saving money and you achieve the best economical and ecological value. Looking at the growth, you see that in Germany, we are growing from roughly 110,000 heat pumps in 2020 to 270,000 heat pumps in 2027, which reflects a CAGR of roughly 14%. And the strongest growing technology is the air water heat pumps. The liquid water you see on the bottom consistently at roughly 20,000 heat pumps. The reason why air water is growing stronger is because of the easy installation. You don't need to dig a hole in order to get your warmth out of the water, but you are getting the warmth directly out of the air. Subsidies in place strongly push the air water systems and will drive that growth for the next years in the double digits. Now looking into the use cases, you see that in 2020, the 111,000 heat pumps at the example of Germany were distributed half-half in existing build and new build. Looking into 2027, you see that the overall market grows by 14%, which is 111 million to 270,000 units. Both use cases are growing. New build will grow by 20,000 units to 75,000. Whereas the existing build clearly grows strongest from 55, almost fourfold, to close to 200,000 units. And this is driven by very strong subsidies in place. And as said before, some regulations help there as well. Now, you will ask yourself the question, why do we elaborate on new build and existing build? The reason is because the customer requirements are quite different in new build. New build, you have a builder to decide upon which heat pump is integrated or which technology is integrated, and this is done very strongly based on a low installation cost. So cost is key in new build. Then you need very silent heat pumps. As you can see on the pictures, the installation space is quite small and the housings are very close to each other, so you need very silent heat pumps. And the installation inside the house needs to be very compact, and it is ideally not just focusing on a heat pump, but as well on the ventilation system that helps you improving the climate in the new build. Easy installation, as mentioned already, is always key. In the existing build, you need to make sure that you're focusing on little noise, because so far you were not used to any noise coming from your fossil devices. Easy installation because the installers are installing today fossil and they need to transform into electrified. And your heat pump system has to fit with radiators, for example, and into the overall space that has been used so far by your fossil solutions. Now, looking into the Bosch and Buderus Termotechnique solutions, you see here our overall portfolio divided into the technologies. Coming from the bottom, you see the hybrid solutions. Hybrid solutions are the perfect bridge from fossil into the electrified system, because you do not need to change anything from your housing insulation, and you can straight away make use of the reduced CO2 emissions by installing a heat pump straight away. If you have your house prepared for a heat pump, you can then decide whether you take a liquid water heat pump, which is very silent, easy to install, and due to the high efficiencies, very economical to run as well in the renovation. Or you can decide air water, MPP, which is the mid-price segment, or LPP, which is the low-price segment. The low PP is easy to afford, and the MPP heat pumps are very silent. You can see on the left-hand side pictures already diffusers. A diffuser is hiding away the ventilation of the outdoor unit, so you can't see any ventilator moving, which already leads to reduced noise emissions. And we are offering the MPP segment for indoor and outdoor solutions, focusing on easy installation and little installation space. Okay, looking at the multiple solutions, we're looking forward to getting some insights from Marco Bastian on the southern situation.
Thank you, Guenther. Thank you for the insights, and I will continue with the focus on the Southern European area. First, a word to the regional situation with UK and Ireland. We decided on having UK and Ireland as a part of our electrification activities for Southern Europe, simply because, first of all, price positioning in UK and Ireland is much more likely to be the same as in the Southern European areas, as in Middle European areas, and the product choice in the UK also is very much the same as it is, for example, in France, in Italy, or Spain. So it makes much sense to have UK in our Southern European activities. Giving a general background about the situation in the Southern European market, and besides that, I just mentioned the UK being part of Southern Europe because of the similar products. It is still a very inhomogenic market, and it's an inhomogenic region in terms of legislation, in terms of heat pump use and activities in renewable energy. For example, countries like France, Italy, and UK, they steer very heavily towards electrifying and CO2 emission reductions and so on, by having legislations or subsidies in place that push heat pump use in houses, in renovation, and in new build. But on the other hand side, we have, for example, the Balkan region, so everything east of Italy. I would say there's not much activities ongoing, at least steered by the government. If we have a look at the product background, we see that the air water is the most used product in the Southern European area, which has two reasons. First of all, due to the climate, it is very efficient to use air water heat pumps. We have very warm outdoor temperatures where the efficiency of the air water is high enough to be very productive. On the other hand side, we have a high share of air conditioning companies, especially from the Asian area, coming into the Southern European markets, which push the use of air water heat pumps. There is actually at the moment the expectation that the type of technology of air water heat pumps will switch from currently mainly use split heat pumps, which means that the refrigerant circuit is divided between indoor unit and outdoor unit, will switch towards a monoblock, which means that the complete refrigerant circuit is in the outside unit hermetically sealed, And this is due to the F-gas legislation, which has an impact on the use of refrigerant, meaning that refrigerants with a lower global warming potential should be used, and by that they become flammable, and you don't want to have flammable refrigerants in your house. Next slide, please. In terms of market growth, we see here one of the most growing regions in Europe, especially on the air-water LPP side, as we call it. LPP stands here for low price positioning. It is currently the biggest part of the sales in Southern Europe, but it will still grow to a very, very high share, up to almost 500,000 pieces. The air-water MPP and HPP, which means mid-price and high-price positioning, is despite that also growing, which is due to the use case, which I will show you later. Liquid water heat pumps are very regionally used in Southern European area and are a niche market, mainly used in, for example, northern Italy in the Alps, or in France in the Alps. Next slide, please. As I was mentioning, the use case development is currently in the Southern European area steered by legislation, especially in France and Italy, which wants to exchange all oil boilers existing in the housing stock. And by that, they have subsidies in place that push heat pumps into the existing building market. Currently, we have a sales number of 250,000 pieces going into existing buildings and 100,000 going into new build. The prognosis until 2027 is that the existing building market will almost double to 460,000 pieces, which is mainly steered further by legislation in France, Spain, and Italy. But you see also an overproportional growth of 300% in the new build market, from 100,000 to 300,000 pieces, which is due to the UK legislation, which electrifies the new build market completely by 2025, meaning all new build houses in the UK from 2025 onwards will be using heat pumps. Next slide, please. And this leads us also to look at the main requirements of the use cases, new build and existing building in the Southern European market, where the focus is very much on costs, meaning in the new build area, we have a very high push on costs in the project businesses, meaning that the house building companies having single contracts with heating producers, which pushing very much the costs down. And as we have an example here from the UK market, there we will see a very high impact on the cost targets for such products. On the other hand side, what is also different to the Middle European area, we have a very high demand for cooling, especially the more south you come in Spain and in Italy. Cooling is one of the main drivers for the using of heat pumps compared to other heating devices. Besides that, also important is that it fit in place and easy to install. If we have also an additional look at the UK, where what makes it very special there is that even in new build, you will have a radiator distribution and not underfloor heating, as it is standard in the rest of Europe. If we look at existing building, also here, low cost targets due to the fact that the heat pump technology is more expensive than, for example, a standard gas boiler that is mainly used in, for example, Italy, Spain, or France. And by that, the cost is also an important factor. Easy installation and the heat pump needs to fit into the given system are standard requirements for an existing building switch. Also, the high temperatures are important to be met by the heat pumps due to the situation that the insulation is not so good in old houses. Most likely you have a radiator distribution, and by that you need higher temperatures to fit the demand. Next slide, please. What we are currently offering in the Southern European area, not only the Southern European area, but mainly here, is our low-cost heat pump, the air-water split, where we have 7 different capacity sizes, currently from 4 to 15 kilowatt, meaning being able to serve the new build market in the low outputs and the high existing building market in the high outputs, with very flexible indoor unit systems where we can serve the existing building market, especially with the wall-hung units with electrical heater, or that can be used with a second heating source, or for new build, very compact system with tower with integrated domestic hot water cylinder, or with a combination with solar. Next slide, please. And last but not least, also having a view into the future. Mid of last year, we established a joint venture together with the Israeli air conditioning producer Electra Industries. And we are going to establish here a common approach for targeting the low-cost market of heat pumps in whole Europe, but of course with a focus on the Southern European area. By that, we will also divide the development activities for the system approach to Aveiro, Portugal, where we have a Bosch plant where this development will be done, and of course with the traditional plant in Israel from the Electra side, where the outer units will be developed and produced. By that, we are also investing 30 million euros into a new facility and a new development, so that we will be ready with this strong partnership for the future in Southern Europe. And now I will hand over to Tom again to wrap everything up. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you, Marco. So, summarizing, I think one can tell that the marathon towards reaching EU climate goals in 2030 has started. I think we also could underscore positively that Bosch is definitely a part of it, and we are driving this change, all in the context of our vision, invented for life, and that we build a better life by energy transition. The market has shown that heat pump technology is ready. Politicians have acknowledged heat pumps as being one of the solutions of the future. And this leads to sustainable growth, which we have seen in recent years. Bosch is participating in the growth of the recent years. We are investing 100 million euros in our portfolio, in sales, into our operations. Nevertheless, we are not there yet. To reach EU climate goals, we need to enable mass deployment, meaning to sell and bring to the market more than 1 million heat pumps per year, more in the ballpark of 1.5 to 2 million heat pumps per year. There, we work with our partners and via the associations of, for instance, EHPA and BWP, to overcome the obstacles which we still have in Europe, namely CO2 pricing, the electricity taxation in the installer base, because also we see it as our duty to take our installers on the road with us towards electrification, towards a better life. Summarizing, I want to underscore that we are ready for mass deployment. We are proving that by building millions of products every year. Bosch has its strength in mass deployment, and we are ready for mass deployment of heat pumps to support EU reaching climate goals in 2030 and for a better future for you, us, and generations to come. Thank you.
Very good.